No, that's what I was going to do. That was excellent advice. And that's where I will start. Once I find that she can help me or somebody can help me, then I'll approach whoever the comandante happens to be.
Yeah, so the commissario didn't change, the commandante changed, not the commissario.
No, the commissario is elected.
I can only imagine the commandante being changed every 3 months must be part of an anti-corruption plan. I mean, it seems odd to...
This is what I was told. We only have 6 police officers during a shift. We used to have 8, sometimes 10. So now we have 6. And the reason is, 1, either the applicants are not passing the test, 2, they're quitting because they're tired of the violence, or 3, they're getting murdered. That's exactly, I'm quoting someone who told me that.
See, all you gringo expats have to calm it down a bit. We can't keep murdering our law enforcement in this town.
So anyway, I will get to it, Cheryl. I promise. It just kind of dropped from the top of my list for the time being.
Yeah, I just know that some of the castaway kids that were coming to us for English classes are reaching out and getting some one-on-one help with their university courses and things like that. And they are, seeking English speakers to help them with things. So I'm sure that they would help us in return to translate things like that for the police.
It was an excellent idea. And I think she's there on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Yeah. I just saw it somewhere, but I will get to it because that was a really great idea.
Yeah, I thought Wednesday and Friday, but yeah, in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I've also got another follow-up with Cheryl and the iPad keyboard cases that we were talking about on Facebook. If you guys want to keep talking about tech topics throughout the week, we'll join the San Carlos Computer Club Facebook group. And I'll be aware of things that you're interested. We post things there. And Cheryl was posting and curious about keyboards for the new iPad. And what I posted to Cheryl to the group was a link to a couple of things. One's an iMore article. Did you get to see that, Cheryl?
I didn't take. Yeah, we had an interesting day yesterday. Bill will probably tell you the story, but no, I didn't get to looking at that review site. But what caught my eye was we're thinking of buying an iPad, the new one, and
2 of them.
2 of them. All right.
Somebody's looking for 2 of them, and I look for a case. And this one flashed up as an ad, and it caught my eye because it looked really neat that it had the keyboard and the case and everything all in one, and it kind of like stand. Because my iPad, I've never had a nice stand for FaceTiming or anything like that on it.
Well, stand, it looked beautiful because what it did is it took the iPad and made it a screen in a laptop.
Yes, it looked
It was a rigid, light frame with a full keyboard. And I think that would have been the perfect product last year. But because of the latest updates in iOS 14, or since 13, I think it is, there's support for a trackpad. So you can even take even more advantage of the laptop paradigm with your iPad if you get a keyboard. And I wouldn't recommend anything except a keyboard that includes a trackpad, because you'll want to be able to do that at some point.
And this company, what's the company's name? Gold and...
The one you're talking about, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, neither do I.
The ad that you posted there. But that turned me off right from the get-go. I love the way it looked. I liked the way that it presented itself. But the fact that it didn't have a trackpad, I immediately thought, no, that's not the right setup for what you're trying to do. Whether you use the it's kind of like a touch screen on a laptop. Whether you're going to use it or not is totally up to you. but having it should just be part of it. The ability to reach out and touch the screen, the ability to reach down and use a trackpad should just be there.
Well, and it's called Gold and Cherry, and the one that I shared with you didn't have the trackpad, but the next ad that came up was the model that had trackpad.
Ah, okay.
So,
Well,
yeah. I just
Yeah,
wondered
I
if
didn't-
you knew anything about Gold and Cherry, because it's this.
No.
No. Okay.
No, and actually what I wrote you on Facebook was that I don't have a lot of experience with these products, and so I would find a reviewer that I trust. And
Right.
this iMore site, I don't know if you guys have paid any attention, but they've got a history of being really good reviewists, and they have a list of what they consider the best track keyboard cases for iPads, the iPad in 2021. And this staff favorite is actually a pretty cool looking product. I've got it up on my screen now.
And is that by
The-
Logitech? No.
No, but that was the other link I sent you was Logitech. I always like the Logitech stuff, and the Logitech stuff looks really good. But the Logitech stuff, in fact, I could probably bring that up right now too. The Logitech stuff looks more like a trying to make it a Surface. So it's a soft cover that folds. I don't know if you can see that on my screen right now.
Yeah.
It's a soft cover that folds, has a kickstand, has placement for an Apple Pencil. But here's what I don't like. It's $150. So you spend $430 on a laptop and then $150 for a case. That starts getting pretty expensive. But I do like it. It's got that Alcantara, that kind of clothy feeling cover. The soft keyboard. Can you guys see that on my screen okay? Should I put this in presentation mode, or is that clear enough?
Oh, that's good.
That's
Looks
clear.
clear to me.
But you know, I've had iPad covers before, the soft one and things like that, and their support in the what do you call it?
The kickstand.
Always, it's got cardboard inside it, and it cracks, or it doesn't stand up. You know, like it.
So you might look at this is a $60 product that iMore is recommending. And this is closer to the kind of product you were looking at. And again, I would probably look for some reviews versus if you put VS in there, if you put one name brand versus another name brand, you'll end up with somebody that's comparing the two products. And this has that inclusive kind of screen. It becomes the screen of the product. But what else is cool is that it's rigid like a laptop and has a backlit keyboard.
Yeah.
And this is the #1 pick from iMore in this category.
And it's what brand?
The name?
It is called what was it? It was right in front of me. Phixnozar, Phixnozar.
Phixnozar.
Yeah, so that you can make sure you get Nozars in your product. This is the Phixnozars.
Fix.
But I'll put this link. In fact, yeah, I'll put this link on today's meeting, and they've got about 10 different 2, 4, 6, 5. They got 5 different cases here for that kind of experience you're trying to have. And then at the top, that is that Phixnozar, and that's their staff favorite. And if you're telling me, well, what was the name of that other one? Gold Cherry?
Gold and Cherry. Ampersand. Gold and Cherry.
And Cherry. If that has a trackpad, then I'd be much more interested in looking at their equipment than I was what you posted on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I think that trackpad's an important piece to add.
I'm just
for that
looking at,
one time you're using it.
so the ones on the iMore range from $39, 74, 70 to
Yeah, the
74,
one we were just looking at was a $60 one.
$60 at Amazon is, well, mine's $70 at Amazon. The Phixnozar
Yeah.
Phixnozar is $70.
I've got it here for 54.97 plus shipping, but I'm not shipping it to Mexico. I'm thinking, and so that must be what's, because if I was shipping it to Mexico, it's an $80 product. So I don't know what it costs to get it in Canada.
$1,200.
It says $70
$1,200.
at Amazon.
And then I'm looking at, here's some of those cases from Golden Cherry that I've never heard of before. But they've got 5 stars on their website. All of them were 5 stars. So I would probably do Gold and Cherry versus Phixnozar iPad case trackpad. Let's see what we've got here. Best iPad Pro keyboard case with trackpad. 11 best.
This also has a battery pack in it. That Golden Cherry one supposedly has a battery pad or something, a charge.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an uncommon feature.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking to see if this one has one. Lithium battery provides, yeah. The keyboard case has a long battery life due to lithium-ion battery that provides up to 350H with backlit off. So there is a battery in this Phixnozar, but it's specifically to power the backlit keyboard. It does, like in Canada. I'm looking at the website here, and it's putting everything in pesos. And so everything looks like it's around 3,050 pesos. I'm going to stick that link in our chat so you can easily just click on it and see what it translates into Canadian dollars. Because price is about availability as much as it is about quality.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be in the chat now, Cheryl. You should be able to click on that and bring up the same page I'm looking at. Did it go? Yeah, it went.
Yep.
So all their products are around 3,000 pesos,
Which is
in
200,
Mexico.
205 Canadian.
Okay. I like the 360 swivel smart case. Just for nostalgia, I used to own one of those HPs that would swivel.
Mm.
It's funny that they would call it a 2-in-1. You know, it's supposed to be an Ultrabook and a tablet. I could probably dig it out one of these days. It is the heaviest. It's one of the heaviest laptops I ever owned because of that swivel. And it was one of the most air-prone that I ever owned as well. This is a much better way to do it. Just buy a tablet and put it in a case.
Yeah, the cheapest one is 128 Canadian, going up to 205 for the trackpad smart case iPad Pro. But I don't have an iPad Pro.
Well, and the cheapest one here is mini, or it's the swivel. Actually, I wonder if that's for the newest one. Wonder what the difference is between this swivel. Oh, 3rd and 4th generation 12. Okay, that's iPad Pro. Okay, so yeah, it looks like that swivel at the bottom.
Yeah, smart case for 9.7.
You know what? The one that you're looking for would be these two right here, I think. iPad 7 or 8. 7 or 8. I think that's what you're looking for, 7 or 8, like 8th generation. So it's for me, it's 2,839 pesos.
I think
Oh, that's
trackpad smart case for 9.7, iPad 5.6, Air 1, Air 2, and Pro is 179.36. And I think that once I go to it, then it will ask me which iPad I want.
no. I think it's telling you right there. This one fits the iPad 5th generation, the 6th generation, the first Air, the second Air, and the iPad Pro.
Boy, I'm trying.
Whereas these two on the other side are the ones that I think you're looking at is trackpad smart case
I'm sorry?
for 10.2 through 10.5 inch, iPad 7, iPad 8, iPad Pro, and Air 3. Or the one right next to it at the same price, and that's the one with the swivel. And I only like the swivel from nostalgia. I would not buy it because that swivel's going to break. But it's the same price. And it's the same qualifications. iPad 7, iPad 8, iPad Pro, iPad Air. I mean, maybe you like the swivel. It's I think that mechanism is prone to break. It's a focal point, a force point that could break easily.
At least there's no wire in the swivel.
That's true. That's a good point, Jim. The not having any electronics up into that would mean that even if it did break, it wasn't going to be disastrous. Whereas on the computer I owned, it would have been disastrous if the swivel broke. Cool stuff. Still a bit expensive. I mean, it's really expensive if you compare it to what iMore's saying. I'm sure iMore is keeping in mind the budget for it as well.
So it says that the 3-month battery life on charge. So is that the battery just for the backlight on the
Are you talking
keyboard?
about the one I was looking at from iMore, or are you talking about the Golden Cherry?
The Golden Cherry, 3-month battery life per charge.
That's, that sure sounds like a backlight, doesn't it? It doesn't sound like a battery for your computer. That sounds like it's self-powered.
Well, it wouldn't be for the computer because, like you say, there's no connection. It's all Bluetooth. So
Well,
there would be no battery.
Actually, Bill, that's a new misconception because the latest versions of the iPad have on the side a connector specifically for this kind of stuff. And so it would be possible to, or at least I think you can charge it through that because I think that they're able to add more ports.
Yes.
Now that I say that, I don't know for certain.
Well, it says something about, I'm just clicking on the side view of the thing, and it says like it's got USB. What are these ports? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit more, but I haven't bought the iPads yet. So
No, but I think this is a good kind of research to do before. I mean, I like to have it all sorted out before I make the purchase. And then I'm about to make the purchase and something changes and I got to sort it all out again. I just saved all that money by not buying that original purchase. I don't have a new computer, but I didn't spend any of the money.
and like the thing that they advertise is that versus the Apple product, and these ones always come out cheaper, the non-Apple, and because Apple cases are extremely expensive.
Connector. I'm trying to get something on the keyboard connector. Your smart keyboard folio or smart keyboard. Pad accessories included with iPad. Yeah, I'm just forming interesting questions in my own mind because I want to know if there's a way to power adapt to that. Accessories included, power. Nothing's jumping out at me at the moment. They do have a keyboard connector on the side. What that's limited to, I guess I'm not certain. For some reason, I was thinking it could be used to add extended ports or even a power charger, but I'm not seeing any of those kinds of products popping out from a Google search. So I don't know if that gives you the extent, but what that does mean is that it doesn't need to be Bluetooth, that it can be directly connected. Cheat sheet, what is that? Faster graphics. No, I don't see anything here useful. Anyway, that's where we're at with your guys' iPad case question.
Too bad weren't all in the same place. We could get a
discount.
discount.
A bulk buy. Send 6 to the computer club.
It would cost us more to distribute them than it would to buy them.
I really wonder. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
What do you wonder?
Oh, I'm just wondering if they still do that at Apple. Would we have to be? Are they even doing? I guess they are doing individual educational discounts.
There you go. We could send Bill. Bill knows how to beg for equipment at the school board, right?
Maybe we could laminate our own computer club cards and say that it's all for educational purposes.
There you go.
I have a Alberta retired teacher's card.
There you go.
I don't know if that qualifies.
And
They
my
definitely
lifetime.
have stipulations like that to verify that you're either an educator or to be educated. They want to see something like a class schedule or a student ID or a teacher ID, something like that.
Well, Bill, that card in
Photoshop is us.
that card in $5 will get you a coffee at Starbucks.
How about a simpler
I don't buy
solution?
coffee at Starbucks.
Since
What was that, Dave?
websites track your browsing history, it's very easy to just try another browser and you very likely will get a different lower price because you haven't already been searching for it so much.
Yeah, that's true. You could shop around. You might even be able to go into a student bookstore with a school card and buy it from them at a student price. It used to work that way.
Speaking of students, they walk past our house on the trail every day, and I go out there to get my exercise, and somebody left one of these.
Oh, doesn't look intentional.
No, it's not a bomb. What have
No.
Have you ever seen one before?
Sure.
Yeah, it's an audio out.
It's an audio dongle for an iPad or an iPhone so that you can plug in a...
I can do this?
There you go.
All right. I wondered if it was, so God knows why I would use it, but...
There's a poor teenager walking around not being able to listen to their music.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And
Hey, Jim, I use it all the time.
I can tell it's a kid's because it's got teeth marks on it.
That's a dog. It was Paul's puppy.
That's it.
That was the dongle for his nervous habit. Now he's going to be sitting in algebra with nothing to chew on except for a number 2 pencil.
That's right. It's going to get a D for sure.
Scott, I know that you're not an I guy, but anyways, our friends have a brand new Mac Air, and we tried to connect. Facebook Messenger is the video call system that I really like to use. The video is really good. The audio has consistently been better than Zoom, than Google, than Skype, than anything. I really like Facebook Messenger. So they were trying to do it on their brand new Mac Air. And it kept telling them that they had to install Chrome before they could download the app for Messenger.
The app for Messenger. And is this one of the new M1 Macintoshes?
Well, that I don't know. I don't think they know because I asked them what they had and they said it was a Mac and then they said it was an Air. So I
at this point, you need to find that out because it could be a unique problem with being an M1 Mac Air.
M1. Okay. And
Yeah.
like, is Facebook related to Google Chrome at all?
No, not at all. But what we're talking about is the technology for running the Messenger. And it
Okay.
could be that they are not able to run the Messenger software yet on the new platform.
Okay.
And so it might be the only way you can do Facebook Messenger right now is through a web browser. I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to do it through Safari, but it might be something that's just more open with Chrome, or it could just be I mean, I've never heard that before. In fact, it
Well,
might be
no,
worth
they
it.
hadn't either, and they wanted to get on with the happy hour, so they went to their phone. But so yeah. You see, Messenger used to be you could just do it in your browser, but it works a lot better if you download the app and use the Messenger app.
From the App Store, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, or maybe it was just from the Facebook site. No, I think they took me to the App Store. I've got it installed on all my devices, so.
How to use Facebook Messenger on your Mac. How to use via messages. This is all old school stuff. Let's see what happens if we do M1. Let's just put M1 in there.
Yeah, but then we were going to go to FaceTime, but they didn't know what their contact was for FaceTime. Like it was, I didn't know. They didn't know if it was a telephone number or an email or whatever. Brand new. So.
Well, this is beside the point, but I'm sure they want to install Chrome regardless.
Well, she said she had already, which was really confusing her. So.
Okay, so it sounds more like something's not popping off correctly.
Okay.
It sounds like there's a misunderstanding of the messages that are being given to them. I'm looking through a list of things that are ready to go on the M1, and now I'm tired of reading through it, and I'm just going to search for Messenger. And it doesn't look like it exists in this article, so Google, you failed me. Which Apple? Yeah, that's an interesting question. But it sounds more to me like it's a misunderstanding of messages that are popping up on the screen. Because I don't see anything that would stop you from being able to run.
As in the human misunderstanding the message, or the
yeah. I'm suspecting that it's a human misinterpretation of what's being said to him, which is every message of every problem that people are having because people are involved.
Yeah, it's a human error.
It's always a human error.
Every flight that ever came out of the air, yes, every plane.
Until the robots are building themselves, it ends up being a human error in the end. Well, cool. That's kind of my follow-up stuff. Have you guys got any recommendations for today? We should be out watching, listening
Scott,
to,
I got
reading.
I got a
What do you
quick
got, Bill?
question for you.
Oh, sure.
I have a Echo View 5, I guess it is.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, can I get Google Meet on it? I don't even know if I'm asking the proper question.
I don't think you can. Google, in fact, let's just Google Meet on.
I want this to be a quick question, and then we'll go on to recommendation.
How Amazon, Alexa, and Google Meet integration works. Authenticate Amazon, Alexa, plus Google Meet. Pick one of the apps as a trigger, which will kick off your automation. Choose a resulting action. I don't know. There's a thing here telling people how to do it.
Okay,
Echo Show.
I'll Google it. I'll
It's
just
Echo
Google it.
Show. Is it Show or Echo? I thought you used the word View, but Show is popping up here.
I think it is a show.
I'm
Echo Show 8 joins Google and Facebook in offering video calls.
Echo-
Is
Echo Show 5.
Echo Show 5.
I don't know that.
Oh, be quiet, Echo.
And now she's talking to you. Compatible with Google Meet. Here is an. I'm surfing along here. Found an Amazon forum. They're asking the same question you are. No. That's the answer from 7 months ago.
Okay.
No, the Echo Show 5 is not compatible with Google Meet. Welcome to the Amazon forums. These are answers from 7 months ago on Amazon. Nobody has come in to update any of that information. It looks like they're in direct competition, which probably explains why you can't use it. Use Alexa for Hangout meetings. That's too bad, because you would think that they would treat it as like a phone platform. If that's the case, why wouldn't you just buy a generic tablet to fill that role? Why would you?
Oh well, yeah, but I was just thinking before your meeting started. Is the show was sitting here. I wonder if you can get Google Meet on that. It was almost a rhetorical question.
I wonder, can you do YouTube on it? I wonder if you could
Well,
watch the live stream right now on it.
I haven't tried anything on it. It's sort of a canned system, a locked up system. But there's all kinds of things through the Amazon, like with their skills and routines and stuff. There might be something in there that gets it going. I'll fool around with it. See, I'll report back next meeting.
Yeah, I'd
It's
be
my
very
homework.
interested hearing how you.
Don't we all feel that Bill should learn that last piece of technology he bought before he gets a new iPad? Work with me, people.
That's not
Yeah,
how it works,
here's-
Cheryl.
Here's the problem. Cheryl got the last iPad. It's my turn.
You're supposed to learn 1/1000th of the capabilities before you go on to the next tech device.
Oh, I already have that.
It's like stepping stones in a river. You have to keep your momentum up.
Exactly. Otherwise, you'll slip and fall right in.
There you go. How
stop.
many times did you use that
Lose your
line?
balance.
Bill?
You know, on this.
Wrong audience. You know, it's sort of like asking an Alcoholics Anonymous question at the bar. I'm asking fellow addicts about
Right.
technology. So, anyways,
I was going to say on that theme, I have that conversation with myself every time I clean the office and I'm holding something. I'm like, oh, wait, I could probably use as dusting off the cobwebs. I wonder if this would work for, and then the other side of it is toss it in the trash. Which do I do?
so if we're going to recommendations, I see Judy's not here, but I'm finally catching up on some of the previous recommendations. And I watched her One Night in Miami with Malcolm X and Muhammad
Jim
Ali.
Brown.
Cassius Clay turned into Muhammad Ali. Yeah, and it was a very, very interesting historical drama, is I guess what we call this kind of thing. The other thing I watched, I think Sandy's there and Maggie. It's Diane Keaton in a little movie, a fun little chick flick called Pom, as in pom poms for cheerleaders. And they're in a seniors community and they have to join one club. And so Diane Keaton creates a cheerleading club. And it's quite hilarious. It's quite funny, but it's got some issues of aging and stuff with it. Quite a lot of fun movie.
Is that a new, I just released?
I don't know.
No, it's been around a couple years now, I think.
Is it POM?
It is.
I got pomegranates.
I can't remember if I watched it on Netflix or Prime. One of those two.
Palms. Is that it with an S? Plural?
Could be.
Try it.
American comedy.
Diane Keaton?
No, not yet. Oh yeah, there she is, right at the top of the bill. 2019 American comedy film directed by Zara Hayes, starring Diane Keaton, Jackie Weaver, Pam Grier. Well, now I might be interested. So this is a cheerleading club or class in a retirement community, is that right?
A little too close to home.
I just needed something light and fluffy one day, and that's what I watched.
Cool. Well, I'm putting it on the list. I've
Jeez.
never heard of it.
Gonna have to back home your hair there, Bill.
Well, I've got a recommendation. I just watched a crazy movie that I suspect that I originally saw it with my friend Justin back in 1985. It's a movie called After Hours. And this is a kind of a dark comedy. It has Griffin Dunn and Roseanne Arquette in it. And Cheech and Chong make an appearance. Oh, and Terry Garr's in it as well. Cheech and Chong play a couple of guys running around in a van doing stuff. They don't play Cheech and Chong, but it's totally Cheech and Chong.
Far out, man.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of this movie, but it's a real twisted, kind of dark comedy about a guy that finds himself out looking for love after hours and has lost his money. And all he wants to do is get home after a crazy experience. And it's all the crazy experiences he has trying to make it back home. After Hours is the name of it. It was one of these movies. You know, I've been following different movies have brought me into different research that's gotten me onto another list of different movies. There was another one that I just recently watched that I don't know if I really liked the movie as much as I liked the idea of the movie. It's an old one called Sergeant York. Have you guys heard of that?
Oh,
It's from
Yes, I
the
have.
Sid's heard of it. It's another Hudson Hawk, isn't it?
Yeah. Alvin York from Tennessee. My grandpa served with him.
Oh wow, he's famous American hero, right?
Most decorated U.S. soldier until Audie Murphy.
And he was a what do you call it when you don't want to use guns? A
He was a
conscientious
conscientious
objector.
objector.
oh,
So he's probably one of the most famous conscientious objectors.
Yeah. His whole statement on what happened was, well, you can only be pushed so far.
He found religion later, or at least I don't know his history. I know the movie I watched, and I hope that it's a fairly accurate portrayal of his history because they make him out to be somewhat of a simple guy from a southern region, not very well educated, a bit of a drinker, a bit of a womanizer, and later finds God, and then gets drafted into the war. And he has to reconcile his feelings about God and the idea of being at war. And at some point, he's able to distinguish saving lives by taking out the enemies that are trying to take them out. That there would be a whole lot more death if he wasn't playing his part.
hmm.
a famous sharpshooter. So in the movie, they portray a battle that he pretty much takes down an entire, well, two platoons of German soldiers. He brings them in just by scaring them with his accuracy and making them feel like they had more force. And there's a funny bit where they're all prisoners of war. He won't kill them. And there's a funny bit where he's trying to get rid of them, and he's got something like 30 guys he's trying to maneuver around the battlefield, 30 prisoners, and there's only 8 of him. He's having a conversation with a
87 people.
Say that again, Sid?
He captured 137 German troops and 22 machine guns.
And so he's trying to pass these off to a superior officer, and they won't believe him at first until this huge platoon of people show up. He's like, there's only 8 of us. We're trying to get somebody to take them off of our hands.
Yeah, there's a great Howard Hawks scene in there where they do like a telephone tag. It's going soldier to soldier talking about, oh, well, he captured 50 troops. Oh, he captured 200 troops. Oh, he captured 500 troops. And the last guy in the line turns around, hey, I heard this guy Alvin York captured the Kaiser. There's nobody behind him. It's a great movie. There's a lot of emotion to it. Howard Hawks did a great job with it. And like I said, my grandpa served with him in World War I. And I'd gotten some of the history, old men in Tennessee that I'd met. And it's not real close to it, but it's a good representation of the history. And everyone says, oh, yeah, Alvin York was a famous Yahoo before he got God.
He has a womanizer and a drinker and a partier. And
it was just him and his buddies out drinking, having a good time. They didn't care.
Yeah.
Fit right in San Carlos.
He probably would never have found God if he had found San Carlos.
He didn't find, well, in the movie, he didn't find God. God found him. They did the same thing to him that they did to Paul on the road to Damascus. Hit him with a lightning bolt.
Perfect.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, just say the name of the movie again.
Sergeant York.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Sergeant York, and I'm trying to remember it seems like it's a 1940s York movie. 1941, Howard Hawks. And, you know, it's Gary Cooper.
Oh, what could be wrong?
Yeah, well, and like, I guess I liked the movie. The movie had a pacing that isn't my favorite. It had a soundtrack that wasn't my favorite. But I really enjoyed getting to know this character that is such a predominant part of old or early century history in the United States. It's World War I, right?
A while back, I found a great YouTube channel called The Great War. And what they do is they do a weekly report. They started in 2014 on the same date the war started. And every week they did an episode, about 10 minutes, of what happened that week in the war. And then it's blown up. They're still making them. They're into the 1920s. They've done a lot of different conflicts that happened at that time. And it's a very neat setup that they've done. There's a lot of just side videos about culture, history, art, what was going on in the different countries at the start of the war. It's taken me a year to go through it, but I have a tendency to watch it a lot.
What's the name of that, Sid?
The Great War on YouTube.
Can you send me a link to that?
Yeah.
I'll do my best to Google it, but just to make sure I get it right. And did you say that's following the progressive, the timeline of the war, like from beginning to end?
Yeah, it's on that progress. They start in 2014. The first week of the war, they do an introduction, how it started. Then it's just every week it's a 10-minute video, 10, 15-minute video of what was happening that week in the war. The actor that's doing the presentation is amazing. It's just him sitting there behind, and their set's cool as hell. I haven't seen one of these in years. It's an old steamer trunk desk. They used to call them a secretary desk.
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
the trunk breaks down into the desk. It's kind of neat. But yeah, no, it covers a lot of the history, a lot of the technical stuff. Yeah, it goes into all sorts of different fields and different things. It's like you would be reading like 20 different books to get this much information.
So, Sid, does it keep on going week by week after the war, or does it skip to the second war?
The war just ended where I'm at.
Oh,
They're doing videos up into the 1920s. They cover Mexico at that time. You go into the Persian incursion into northern Mexico. My grandfather served in that, which is kind of a standing joke with Yuya's family because they're all related to Pancho Villa, and my grandpa chased Pancho Villa. Yep, he was the driver in the lead vehicle for the United States Army's very first mechanized unit, which was 6 Cadillac touring cars commanded by one Lieutenant George Patton.
Wow, that's quite some history.
Yeah, it's funny. That's my connection to Sonora. I mean, Grandpa was in Wymus.
you'll have to make the movie.
Oh, no. No. I got it. I know my family, and I got an idea what Grandpa did. There's a story about Grandpa being back to back with Patton when they got jumped by Villa's troops.
You said steamer trunk desk, and it prompted me to go do a Google search for steamer trunks because I'd never seen a steamer trunk desk before. I don't know if you can see on my screen. Here's a variety of the things that popped up.
Yeah.
Look at that big handle right here. Steamer trunk desk, huh? Well, now I'm going to have to do recommendations for YouTube videos as well. I guess I was sort of doing that before. But...
Okay, Scott, one note on Sergeant York.
Oh, yes, sir.
I just pulled it up on Streamio. It's got Gary Cooper in it, but it also has Walter Brennan. Must be an awful young Walter Brennan.
There's a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah, maybe. Remind me of Walter Brennan. I'm sorry, maybe my age is showing. I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
Real
definitely showing.
the guy in the back of the jail. Just really funny because the surveyor grade checker on one of the jobs I worked for a couple of years was Walter Brennan's nephew, and he looks just like him. It was hilarious every time I went to work.
Do you have a limp?
Not really, but he had a couple of the mannerisms. It was a little funny. All right. All right, Scott. I just sent you the link to the Great War on Messenger.
Oh, great. Hey, can you stick it in the chat room as well here?
Yeah.
Maybe other people are interested in that. I'll stick it on today's meeting.
How do I get to chat?
Look for the chat bubble up at the top there.
It's a bubble with lines in it.
I found it. So you mentioned one night in Miami, the whole Malcolm X, Cassius Clay meeting. On Epic, there's a TV series. They only did one season so far. It's called The Godfather of Harlem.
Oh.
And it's about Bumpy Johnson.
I'm Jesse Alexander, and welcome to the Great...
Oh, well, you can't hear that anyway.
He was a well-known criminal in Harlem back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. He bumped head with the Italians all the time, and It's a really interesting story. It starts when he got out of Alcatraz and went back to Harlem in the 60s when heroin was really taking off. And it's a lot about him and his fight with Chin Gigante in Greenwich Village.
This is a new series?
It was a couple years ago.
What's it called?
But it really explores the relationship between Malcolm X trying to save Bumpy Johnson's soul.
Oh.
It's a really interesting thing. And the history on it's dead on. The crews did a great job with continuity and historical accuracy. It was a really great show. I wish they'd continued it on, but
What was the name of it again, Sid?
The Godfather of Harlem.
Back to Sergeant York for just a second here. Wasn't there a modern movie about a conscientious objector, like the last 5 years?
Yes. That was World War II, played by Andrew Garfield, I think.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Say that again, Sid?
Hacksaw Ridge.
That's right, Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah, no,
That
real
was
guy.
That was a great movie. If you guys haven't seen that, that's another one that's a really good conscientious objector. I actually was thinking about that movie as I watched Sergeant York, and you can imagine a 70-year span in video production. The story is presented completely in a different manner, but they're both really good films.
Oh, it's funny because I wrote down Sergeant Hawk when you said Sergeant York, and it's actually called Hawks. Anyways, old lady brain.
Well, and Cheryl, if that happens again, just remember you can go to sccclub.org and look at our last meeting, and I'll have it there. Hopefully spelled correctly.
I never remember how many S's and how many C's.
It's sccclub.org.
SCCC.
No. It's SCC Club.
It's SCCC Lub.
Lub, okay. SCCClub.org. I won't argue. Technically correct.
I really love that sort of title.
That's what I should start calling us. We're the SCCC Lub.
We could create a persona for Mr. Lub.
Mr. Lub. That's great. We'll have to use that for something, Mr. Lub.
I think it'll be the new name for our Roomba.
Well, cool. Do we have any other recommendations? Has anybody watched any? Is Mom still there? Mom, have you watched anything new recently?
Well, no, it's getting kind of boring around here. We've gone.
That's just the presidency.
Is that it? That's true. I have to say it. It's kind of hard to watch all of the news now because it's boring. Same old. Not the same old as 4 years ago, but same old.
No.
Oh, just look up Miramar. It's gotten really interesting.
Or look up Alberta. Look up Alberta politics and see how our little mini Trump is doing with us. It's not been a boring week.
Oh, okay.
Can't get the vaccine.
Maybe I'm still suffering.
Yeah.
I have a vaccine story that just came over the airwaves. That we have a lot of rural communities, native communities that are way out there, and so to get the vaccine to them is a huge operation. They've got to take airplanes in, and they've got to have nurses and doctors and the whole thing. They set up there, and they tried to hook up to the internet, and it didn't work. And the bureaucrat inside said, "Come home," and they just went home. And because they couldn't get into the computer to put in all the information as they were vaccinating the people. And Carolyn was in tears. She says, "What's the matter with paper and pencil,
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. Talk about some like bureaucrat who just is tunnel vision.
Like they could talk to him on the phone. Like
Well,
you could dictate what's happening to someone.
Well, for whatever reason, they apparently one of the staff people had a phone that they were able to somehow connect with the satellite and do it, but they weren't able to get their computers that say who's had the vaccine, and so he said, "Okay, well, just come home." And that was a pretty expensive operation to go there. Anyway,
that's a sad story too.
I
wonder how large would the community have been?
Oh, a lot of them are just a couple hundred people, you know.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, like you probably keep track of them on the back of a napkin.
You could write them on your arm.
Right.
Well, if you got a laptop, you just make a document and you write it all in. It's just
obviously somebody has been promoted beyond their being competent. That's what happens. You know, you get people who have never had a pandemic, and then all of a sudden there's a pandemic, and they're in charge. They don't know what to do. You know. Anyway.
Boy, it seems like that a lot of people haven't had pandemic response regulations set up around the world. We're all kind of
and that's it. Until we stop it everywhere. It's stopped nowhere really. You know.
Right.
Anywhere it is, it's mutating, and it'll just pop back out again.
No, it's very frustrating. You know, I just you guys know we do the bed and breakfast in the summers, and we decided not to open this coming summer just because there's just so much iffy stuff. I mean, is there going to be enough people that are vaccinated? Is there air travel going to be easy enough to create a market to plan for? And I just had to we have a group of kayakers from Israel that come over every other year. Good friends and good customers, and I had to let them down. They're like hoping they can come to Alaska this summer. Everything's looking great, and I'm like, well, yeah, but it's looking great in Israel. It's Israel's like the example of how we're supposed to be behaving with this stuff. So of course it looks great there.
Yeah, well, my younger cousin is in Texas, and her family has already received vaccines, and the problems that we're running into here, they're kind of triple-fold. But one of the things that we did was we privatized a pharmaceutical company that was making vaccines, and we could be able to produce vaccines here in Canada, but
the government-controlled operation, not true.
Yeah, they sold it all off, and so everything is produced offshore. And the European countries are where we're getting our supply, and they've stopped exporting vaccines for COVID. And we've got contracts with these different companies, and what they promised us, we're not getting on the timeline that they promised. And so we're getting further and further behind in vaccinating Canadians.
Oh, no, that's a worldwide situation. Europe is locked down, exporting until all their people are taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, but we're not getting it, say, out of the United States.
We got the same issue. It's just
it's a world thing.
Because none of us are making our. I mean, I say us. I included in the community, the cultural, the country community. The U.S. doesn't make vaccines anymore, or they pay somebody else to make them now. The Canada doesn't make their own vaccines anymore. They pay somebody else to do them. I mean, am I understanding that right?
Well, they're
Seems
just
like Mexico's the same way.
They're just opening up in Canada today. They just announced they're refitting one drug company to do that.
It's interesting how we spend all this time pursuing profit. I mean, to the extent that we've pushed our jobs off to foreign countries, and I mean, all in the name of trying to get the best profit, the cheapest product. And then something like this happens, and it just bites us in the ass. And we're just not prepared for it at all. And here we've had almost a year to get prepared for the consequences, and we're still not prepared. I mean, it's interesting to hear Canada dealing with issues that sound like U.S. issues. Sound like Mexican issue. Actually, I listen to these issues, and it feels like Mexico's much more organized than the United States or Canada.
Yeah.
I do know I read a story. I wanted to ask the Canadians. I read a story that there are communities getting the vaccination brought out to them on dog sled in Alaska, and I was curious if you guys had similar stories.
Nah, we use airplanes.
Those are snow machines, dude.
Okay, snow machines.
I still call them
Well,
skidoos.
We did have one case where some rich guy, some billionaire or whatever from Vancouver, took his wife and flew into the Yukon, into a small community in the Yukon, and claimed to be employees of a motel or a hotel up there, and got in line and got their first vaccination, and then turned around and wanted to fly back out. They got caught mainly because they wanted a ride to the airport. They weren't going to quarantine, and they've been fined and disgraced, but they got their shot.
And he lost his job.
Yeah, well, he can afford to lose his job.
Yeah, he was a CEO of a casino company that runs casinos across the country.
Yeah.
Well, video casinos, online casinos.
Oh,
is
like
that,
video poker?
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah, he's an executive with the online video world, or online poker world, and his very, very young wife. And so they both have had their first vaccination, and British Columbia is not giving them their second.
They have to go back to the Yukon to get it.
They're
They
not
won't
allowed.
get it up there. They'll get shot up.
They're facing criminal charges in Yukon and in British Columbia. So
Oh dear, what are they going to do?
live off the
They'll
first.
fly to the States to get their second shot.
We have renters here that are elderly. I don't know if they're elderly than us, but maybe. And again, maybe not. Anyway, he has had a series of brain tumors and has had 5 different surgeries for that and needs another one. And they can't do it here in Alaska. They have to do it in Seattle. So they're in Seattle. And then they're told you've got to have your COVID shots. So she started calling around to figure out where in Alaska she needed to go to be able to get a COVID shot in a timely fashion so that the surgery, which is now scheduled, can take place. So she found it. She and her husband had to fly from Seattle to Bethel and wait for the day in Bethel when the shots were going to be administered. And so they got their first shot. So now they've flown back home here. And then I think in a couple of days they fly back out to Bethel. No, I guess it's next week. They fly out to Bethel to get that second shot, and we'll go from Bethel to Seattle for the surgery. So those are just, challenges I think everybody has. It's just that our challenges are further distance, kind of like Canada's. You got more space you got to travel before you can, figure out your shots.
Yeah.
There's a lot been written about the first pandemic, and it's quite interesting to see how different cities, not so far from one another, had completely different attitudes towards the wearing masks and social distancing and so on. And just amazing the difference in deaths in the two cities that are close by. I think Philadelphia was one that just sort of thumbed their nose at all the regulations and ended up having a big event that was a super spreader. So it's all there in the history. You can just see it.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, are you referencing something particular that you've just recently been reading or watching?
Well, unfortunately, I was reading over Carolyn's shoulder, so I don't know exactly where it happened. But she just looked up. Carolyn, do you know where you were looking at that pandemic information? From the first pandemic about Philadelphia having. Oh, Carolyn said she got there from just Google pandemic 1918. She was looking to see what the end game was.
Oh, go away.
Of course, back to movies. There's Love in the Era. Is it called In the Era of Pandemics? Or something like that. A movie was made recently.
Love in the Era of Pandemics.
Yeah, I think it's something like that, and it's about the. It's actually about somewhere in South America and the pandemic going through there, and of course, it's a love story, hence the name. That was a pretty interesting film to think about us now. Yeah, I think it's Love in the Era of Pandemics, or Pandemic Era. No.
Love in the Time of Cholera?
Oh, maybe that's it. I'm close. You know,
Close.
close.
Cholera is more of a localized thing than a pandemic. I mean, you can't get bad water that far.
Oops.
Is this
All right.
a 2007 movie? Is this what you're talking about?
Oh boy, am I off. I told you I'm still suffering here. There's still
Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Another recommendation for a TV show. It's on Netflix in the States right now. I don't know about you guys, but it's called Drug Squad, Costa del Sol. It's a Spanish TV series. Only a couple seasons, but it's when the big hash influx into the Spanish coast started in this small town.
Costa del Sol.
Costa del Sol, yeah. It's been kind of interesting. It's the first real drug squad that the Spanish put together.
Oh.
And it's the group of characters you just don't see working together very well, but they do. And then there's the side stories and all that. It's not a historical thing, but it's fun to watch.
We watched one earlier. Oh, I'm not going to remember what it was called. It was about a woman that took over the drug cartel. What's that called? Something Queen?
What?
This is
Southern Queen or something?
Costa del Sol. Oh, I found it.
Southern Queen. Queen of the South?
Queen of the
Yeah.
South.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. I've been meaning to.
I really enjoyed that one. I watched the whole thing. Yeah. Queen of the South. It was cool.
I just reread a book that I read a long time ago. It's called The Kings of Cocaine. And it's about the whole 70s, 80s Medellin cartel drug culture in Florida. And it's written by two reporters from the Miami Herald.
Is it written as a fiction or a nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
So it's like a biographical or a dramatization.
Oh, it's basically two reporters writing a story of the history of the cocaine trade and the Medellin cartel. They start. I remember back in the 80s watching Night Flight, and they had a documentary from a French outfit called The Princes of Cocaine. And my dad came home late, and we were watching it, and he's like, "Why are they talking about Senator Ochoa?" And I'm looking at my dad's like, "How do you know about Colombian politics?" But he's like, "No, that guy's a respected politician. He's not a drug lord." And as we all know, the Ochoas were like, yeah, they were huge. But the book also goes into, it covers the Medellin cartel. It talks about Carlos Later. If you ever watched Blow.
Okay. Yeah.
That with Johnny Depp, that was that's covered in this book. The guy and Carlos Later is the guy that started that island, and it brings up the fact that Walter Cronkite testified against the guy in his court case when they finally. Yeah, they pulled up. Walter Cronkite sailed out to Norman Key. It's where he used to go all the time, and he pulls up, and these guys come out in a boat with a bunch of guns and say, "Go away." And he's like, "Oh, really? Do you know who I am?" And wouldn't inform the Coast Guard. Yeah, it's sketchy getting busted by Walter Cronkite. But it's a great book, and that's a little segment of history if you want to learn about it. It's a really in-depth, great story. It also covers greatest smuggler ever, Barry Seal. Tom Cruise just made a movie.
Go ahead, Sid. I'm sorry. That's exactly what I was thinking. I know that name.
Yeah, Tom Cruise just made a movie about Barry Seal, American Made, I think
Is that what that was called? That's a great recommendation. That was a fun movie.
That's a fun movie, but it's a bunch of BS. I mean, they talk, he worked for the CIA. He did a little work for the CIA here and there, mostly he was hauling guns for outlaws. And he was a big-time smuggler. He was a guy that worked for TW. He was the youngest pilot for TWA and this, and he flew drugs, and then he flew.
In that movie, they depicted him as making so much money off of this that he couldn't do anything with the cash. He just had bales and bales of cash.
Everybody in the cocaine trade back then had that problem.
Yeah, so he was like burying it on his property. You know, he couldn't invest enough in the local community.
Yeah, they're still digging up money on Pablo Escobar's ranch. That's been how long?
Yeah.
Well, these are all
metal detector and go down there.
These are all very interesting recommendations for not having anything planned. We've got quite a list for today. Thank you, Sid. What else do we have going on? Dave sent me a topic about ExpressVPN's press release. Lightway. Is Dave still with us?
No, Dave left quite a while ago, and it looks like Jim Pennington is trying to come in and out.
Dave is there somewhere.
No, he's gone.
He was, but I don't see him anymore.
Okay.
I'll put this link on today's meeting, but what it's talking about is ExpressVPN's new protocol. And it's from a website called Review Geek, but it really reads like it's just a press release from ExpressVPN. What's cool is this thing that they've got called Lightway is a modernized VPN protocol, and it's supposed to be ideal for people that are in unstable internet connections. And talks about traditional VPN protocols are fairly old, and if you get disconnected from the other end, they have to start that connection again from the beginning. And so there's a lot of overhead in the traditional VPN protocols. And so ExpressVPN analyzed all this and narrowed it down to a very specific set, a brand new protocol that they're supporting. And it's supposed to give you better performance and more stable connectivity. Specifically, in general with stability across the internet, but specifically in cases where you're moving between a Wi-Fi and a mobile network, not having to reestablish that VPN connection. But also, I mean, time periods when you have flaky internet, we've all suffered flaky internet, and that creates a lot of overhead for VPN. I was hoping he'd still be on to mention what he was interested in about it. But if you've thought about using a VPN, ExpressVPN is one of the easy ones to recommend. We've had a lot of good experiences using them as a service. I get nothing for mentioning it to you guys, just that if you found yourself looking for a VPN, that's a real easy and vetted system, and now they're supposedly going to be faster and more stable.
What's the name?
Yeah, Scott, we've been using ExpressVPN for a few years now, and I got that same notice yesterday, I believe it was, and they talked about the new protocol, and you go into the protocols and it's there. They've updated the Express. If you want to use it, it's there. So I'll give it a shot. I'll try it. There shouldn't be any problem using it, I don't imagine.
The article reads like there isn't much you have to do except install the new version and run it, because that's what everything's going to be based on now.
Yeah, well, I had the newest version, So I went and looked in the options in the protocols, and there it is. The lightweight VPN is already there. You just have to click on it. Normally, you run the ExpressVPN as automatic. It chooses the best protocol, but you can choose a specific one, and that's what you do. You just click on the lightweight, and away you go.
So in that same notice, they mentioned Cloudflare being one of the exceptional VPNs out there that has built their own protocol from end to end. Most of these VPN services are using protocols that were designed by Cisco 30 years ago, that are considered the industry standard. And in this note that Bill got, it's talking about how Cloudflare is one of the few that have done what ExpressVPN has just done, is build their own protocol. And I've been using Cloudflare for VPN on my Android devices for a while now. I've been very happy with that 1.1.1.1. And they have a thing called Warp, which I think is what ExpressVPN is referring to, is what this what's it called? I just had it in front of me, their new thing.
Protocol.
Lightweight for ExpressVPN is what I think Warp is for Cloudflare. Bill, was there something else you wanted to add to that? I'm sorry if I cut
No,
off.
one of the reasons I like ExpressVPN, and I don't know if it's common in the other ones, but if you do lose your internet connection, like ExpressVPN, it becomes unconnected. You can set it so that it blocks all internet traffic until it connects again. So you're not sitting there exposed when it's not connected. Some of them, they just disconnect and you have to go back and reconnect them yourself.
But what you're saying is that you can set it so that you don't leak information out on an unsecure connection.
Yes, or you're not leaking your information. If, for instance, God forbid that you were actually streaming something that was pirated, that you would not get a notice from your service provider saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" It stops the stream until it reconnects and you're back underneath the blanket, and away you go.
You say that, and I forget that there are ISPs out there that will send you a notice saying, "Hey, we see what you're doing and you should shut it down." It's going to be really interesting how all that shakes out in the future if we discover that the ISPs that have that practice also have big money invested in VPN software.
Well, who knows?
We're going to turn you in because we know what you're doing. And you're like, well, then I'll just get a VPN.
Yeah, well, I haven't got any such notices since I've been using ExpressVPN. Not saying that I ever got them before.
Yeah. I have never gotten a notice. I've never used a VPN. I'm always doing stuff like streaming.
Yeah, but you're in Mexico, for God's sake.
That's true. That's very true. But most of the stories I've heard about getting a notice have been my friend got a notice or somebody got a notice.
I got a written notice. Came in the mail, snail mail. Said cease and desist. I believe I was watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah. That would be funny. It'd be like it shows up in the mail like you blew a red light. It's got a picture of you sitting there watching Game of Thrones. Like you can't deny that it was you.
Something like
Bill's
that.
back in a lazy boy with chips all over him.
Yeah, we're not going to mention what other activities was going on.
All right, you don't have to go that dark.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
If you can see, you can be seen.
That's right. Well, anyway, I mentioned it. I'll put a link on it. I was hoping Dave would be here to tell us what he thought of it, but it's neat that Bill's been using it. Like I said before, VPN for me is a real easy recommendation for my customers because I think it works great.
I have no complaints. It costs us, I believe it's $100 Canadian a year. We just subscribe to it the way it goes.
I normally recommend to people to buy a compatible router so that they can just have any device, their smart TV, their Roku, whatever. Well, in fact, that's the only way to do Roku across a VPN is to have a VPN router.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we have a Fire Stick. The Fire Stick is hooked to the VPN.
Yeah. I mean, the Fire Stick being an Android platform, you could figure out a way to wedge a copy of ExpressVPN into it because they have an Android app. Yeah.
I think the Fire Stick sits behind the VPN.
Yeah, but the Roku device doesn't have such a thing because
but there's nothing on Roku that you could do to get you in trouble.
Well,
you've been in trouble before.
Yeah, I don't know about being in trouble, but if you wanted to use a Roku to do Netflix from England, then you need a VPN. And you can't install that VPN on the Roku device. So the only way to do it is with a VPN router.
But I believe we do. I think we do Netflix on the Fire Stick. Yeah.
Well,
sure.
I can do it either way. I can do it direct from the Roku, and it definitely is the Canadian one. But if I go to it off the Fire Stick, like the different remote, then I'm going through the VPN, and it's usually set for the US somewhere.
And really, I only bring it up because the Roku does not have the facilities to run an end-to-end VPN. The Fire Stick does, but you are running a router that has it. Is that right? You're running a router with it?
No, so I've never figured out how to get into the router.
Okay. So ExpressVPN actually has a list of compatible routers, and you can download an ExpressVPN firmware and put the VPN right in the router. And I really prefer that for my customers because they can go to their ExpressVPN page and deal with the router. And when I say that, what I mean is you can troubleshoot changing endpoints, which is very difficult to do if you're managing your own VPN router. But if you're using one that's supported by ExpressVPN, then it's just a web page you go to. It's very easy to manage your VPN router.
So can you download a VPN into the Daco?
No, I don't believe you can.
So you would have to go into the router, which is ahead of the Daco.
Yeah, or a side router, like use one of those Ethernet ports off of a Deco node and plug it in to a router, and then use that router as your VPN connection.
Yeah, but what's the point of having the Daco then?
Well, because it's bringing internet to that part of the house, and then from that part of the house, you can hook it to a VPN router.
Listen,
so
I'm way too interconnected now that when something changes, the whole damn system is now dependent.
Are you going to tell the story of the rewiring of the Nest?
Yes, we have a small technology tragedy yesterday.
Oh no!
I've been working with installed a Nest thermostat. In August, we inherited it from Cheryl's parents, and it was working fine up till a few days ago, and all of a sudden I was getting low battery notices. So going on the internet finally and Googled the problem, and they say, well, some Google Nests will eventually stop working because you're not getting enough power from the one wire. There's one wire that has power, one is the neutral. Anyway, so they recommended installing the common wire, the C wire. And I did. I jury-rigged one from the furnace up to the thermostat to try it out, and it works perfectly. And yesterday I decided, well, I'm going to fish new wires in and just put the wires in, connecting, get rid of this thing that's laying on the ground. And I had everything, all done. It was working perfect with the jury rig wire. I hooked up the other one, and all of a sudden I'm getting no power to the one contact. And I worked on this thing for about 3 hours trying to figure out, maybe I hooked it up wrong.
No power,
and
therefore no heat, no power.
No heat. No heat in the
God.
house, and it's minus 20.
Winter is the time to screw around with your heater, Bill.
Especially when it's minus 20.
I'm standing in
Anyway.
the electric fireplace reading my book. So,
Anyway, I was quite surprised. Our house retains heat very, very well. And it was not oppressively cold in here. Anyway.
Was Cheryl thinking about you that kept warm?
Yeah, it could be. I have a hot wife. I phoned. We looked up York dealers on the internet and found one. He answered the phone and said, "Well, he couldn't be there today. How about tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, it's going to be awful damn cold by tomorrow." He phones back and he says, "I'll be there at 5 o'clock." So this guy, unlike cable guys, shows up at 5:05. He drives in the yard. He comes in. He doesn't bring his toolkit with him. He just walks in and has a look at it. But he listens to what I said, and we go down to the furnace. He says, "Let's go have a look." Pulls the panel off, reaches in, pulls the fuse off, and says, "Yeah, you blew the fuse. You crossed the contacts when you were installing it." Pulls the fuse out of his pocket, of his jeans, installs it, and said, "That should do it." Hook it all up, works fine. He says, "You didn't turn the power off to the furnace when you were installing these wires." And I said, "Yeah, you're right about that." He says, "Always turn off the power." So we come up, I reinstalled, hooked the wires up again, and it was all working fine. He stood around and talked a little bit about not being able to get to his Florida house for the winter. He was commensurate with us. Anyway, I asked him, how much? He says, "There's no charge for that." This guy drove out of Edmonton.
What?
10, 15 kilometers. He drove out here, and plugged a fuse in and didn't want to charge me anything for it. So he says.
and he also gave us his name. Next time you're in Mexico and you see that your house is, just give me a call. I'll come out and look at your, like he offered all these services.
Anyway, Cheryl says, "What kind of?" He says, "Red."
Red or white, I said, and he knew exactly what I meant. So 2 bottles of red wine, homemade red wine later.
$2 worth, or 2 bottles of homemade red wine for a service call in the middle of winter from the furnace guy. I got to like this guy.
He was taking it home to drink while he sat in his hot tub.
Outside. Anyway, that's my Nest thermostat story.
So there are nice people in Alberta.
He's American.
Yeah, he's American.
Oh, there you go. All right.
He's dual citizen, I think.
You guys have warped my impression of Canadians. The other couple weeks back, you enlightened me to the idea that the Proud Boys were started by Canadians.
One Canadian.
I could never have come up with that.
Well,
that in itself sounds like a conspiracy theory. But now you're telling me people will come out and fix your furnace in the dead of winter for just a bottle of wine.
That's it.
You gotta like it. Yeah. And we picked him random out of he was the first one on the list that looked like he would answer the phone, and he did. But go back to the Proud Boys for a minute. I hear rumors that the leader of the Proud Boys is basically undercover. He's providing information to the FBI, the feds.
Oh, I did.
And I'm not sure if it's our Canadian guy or not.
Right.
No, it's not your Canadian guy. It's a U.S. guy. There used to be a saying in all the militia movements that said, for every one true believer, there's 4 FBI informants. No, that was the joke. It was the whole thing on Ruby Ridge with Randy Weaver. That was started by 2 FBI informants that were working in a group that was out in that area.
The Ruby Ridge, that's when they stormed the house, right?
Well, they started shooting it up. Yeah, the marshals went in and goofed it up pretty good. That's when his son and the dog got killed. And then the FBI came in because the marshals backed off and made it a huge mess. And yeah, and Randy Weaver really didn't have anything to do with the whole militia movement that was going on in that area. They were just
he was poaching deer. That was his offense.
Yeah, and he stole his neighbor's water pipes.
Oh, there you go.
There's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
Don't steal the water pipes.
Yeah, and don't lose your temper and saw off a shotgun for a guy. He's probably
That sends up a red flag when people find out about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they pestered him for over 2 years about it. And then the whole reason they went to get him was because the court didn't inform his attorney that they had changed the date of his trial. So he missed his court date, and they sent a platoon of marshals up the hill in combat gear to go get him. But that was kind of the hallmark for the Justice Department at that time. That's when, like in Tommy Chong's case at that time in the 90s, it was the judge flat out said to the federal prosecutors, like, it scares me you people are supposed to be the ones protecting us. I mean, they really went off the rails back then. Everything was way overhanded, and it's like Waco. All they had to do was
like
go to town and walk up to him and say, "Hey, we need to talk to you."
Yeah.
I feel like I just watched the TV series on Ruby Ridge. I watched the Waco series, which was pretty good, but I feel like there was one for Ruby Ridge as well.
There's a few. The one with Randy Quaid was
made.
actually written in conjunction with the Justice Department.
But I think one of the mistakes that the government made is they started selling all their surplus warfare gear to the local cops, and they couldn't wait to try it out.
Oh, that's the biggest problem in the United States right now, as far as I'm concerned, is just this extra military. I mean, we could talk all day about being a warring nation and with a military industrial system and leftover supply. It's
I can make it really short. There's a great book called Rise of the Warrior Cop. It's considered one of the best books on the subject. He covers all the history back to when they first start. Yeah, he really digs on Daryl Gates, the chief of police in L.A., because that's the guy that really pushed this, that made it stupid.
What's the name of that again? Rise of the Warrior
Cop.
C-O-P. Copper. I'm putting that on our recommendation list as well, Sid. Thank you for producing so much content for us today.
Not bad for just waking up. Yeah, I still haven't heard when I'm getting called back to work yet, but my boss is still calling me, informing me on what's going on with our project this summer.
Is the sun up yet?
Yeah, it just came up about 20 minutes ago.
No, I mean this year. When did it, don't you get sunless days?
Barrow's still got like 2 months, or however the hell they say it now, like one day. And she goes, "Wow, that's a great plan. We're going to have to push that." And I'm like, "Thanks a lot."
Well, you remember they changed the mountain was McKinley, but everybody I grew up with, everybody called it Denali.
Yeah.
And then just recently, isn't it like in the last 5 years, they officially made it Denali?
Yeah, it's federally Denali now. That was about 5 years ago.
Is that a native name or?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's the Denina name for it.
Oh yeah.
Until that idiot from
one
Ohio.
or the big one, something like that, doesn't it?
Great one.
The great one.
Yeah, and
If you grow up in Alaska, that's the correct name for the mountain.
Just like Udiavik now instead of Point Barrow. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, and I practice all the time. Utiavik.
isn't there an in there somewhere at the beginning?
What?
Mom, you're doing a lot better than I would. I was going to say, I mean no offense, but it'll be barrel, because I can't say that.
There we go.
It's stuck being barrel. I can pronounce it.
Yeah. Well, Denali is a bit easier to say than Utiavik too, so that was an easier change.
Hey, guys, I want to make sure that if anybody has anything to contribute, we do it now. I am running out of time and have to call this meeting to an end. I still have topics left over. Some of them are appropriate for next week, so you don't have to feel like you've missed out on anything. But I've missed out on something if you had something to contribute and haven't had a chance to. So now's your chance. Is there any tech topics out there? Any Mexican news? Anything people feel like they want to make sure get into this meeting? No? Everybody seems pretty satisfied. We've solved the world's problems once again.
No, I still got a problem with Apple.
Wait, what's your problem with Apple?
The iPads, it split the keyboard and moves it up at the top where it always seems to cover the window that shows you what you're typing out.
This is when you expand the keyboard on the iPad?
Yeah, like when on Facebook or when you're sending a messenger or whatever, it's when you bring up the keyboard to start typing, it'll cover the bar that shows what you're typing, and it's a split. I understand the split keyboard making it easier for you to type from the sides because it's kind of wide. But yeah, it should be at the bottom where you can get to it. I already sent a loud, noisy complaint to Apple about it. It's like, your update sucks.
So you didn't have this problem before they updated the software?
No, it's the last update.
That iOS 14 point...
Whatever.
14.3 I think we're at, right?
Oh,
well, that's interesting. I wonder if that'll prove to be an Apple problem or a Facebook problem.
No, it's an Apple problem. It's not just Facebook. It's everything.
You know, Sid, it's not an Apple problem. It's an Apple consumer problem. You just need the touch keyboard case so you don't have to open that pesky keyboard. What are you doing?
This doesn't take a keyboard.
You're out of date.
Yeah, no, it's a first generation iPad Air, okay? You were there when I did this ancient thing.
See, that's not an Apple problem at all. You're out of date. You have to go buy a new iPad. That's the fix.
No, my problem is it's slow. That and the games I want to play on it won't run.
Well, you missed last week, but I heavy pushed that new iPad, that 8th generation. I think that's a great tablet at a great price.
No, I'm looking at it. But then again, I just bought a new laptop, so.
Yeah, but if you'd seen the beginning of this meeting, the cases that come with the keyboard make your iPad into a laptop.
For almost the same price as a laptop.
Yeah. More. And nowhere near the storage.
Or more, yeah. Well, now what's nice is you can always stick a USB drive on you. I mean, you may need an adapter, but with the latest software updates to the iPads and iPhones, you can at least plug a USB drive into it and use that storage. I mean, we weren't able to do that before.
On the dongle? No, on a dongle.
On a dongle, yeah. That's right. If you're running 13 or higher, iOS 13 or higher, you should be able to access the a USB mass storage device through a dongle.
They have flash drives that have the lightning plug on them that you can plug into the laptop or into the pad.
That's a pretty cool product. They've got flash drives where they've got flip around connectors, and you can choose either a traditional USB or a and they've got ones that are USB-C or a traditional A. But so it's all in one, inclusive. Guys, I'm sorry. I've got to say goodbye. I've got bells and whistles going on around me. People are looking for me. I've got stuff going on today.
Don't be late.
I
Thanks a
can't.
lot.
Like every other week, you're welcome to stay here and talk to yourselves, but I've got to go.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Au revoir.
Thanks,
See
everybody.
you guys. See you next week.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Feel free to send me any topics for next week. I'll put them in the lineup. See you guys. Adios. Fred, we'll see you later. Cheryl, we'll see you later. Bye, Jim. It has been another successful Computer Club meeting. From me, Scott Stimson, from International Computer Solutions and the San Carlos Computer Club. If you're looking for computer help anywhere on the internet, I'd appreciate it if you'd give me first crack at it. Get a hold of me for remote help, remote@internationalcs.net. Until next week, I hope you guys have a technical week. And until then, tech on. Laters.